The sun hung low in the sky as the rusted gates of the abandoned theme park creaked open, their eerie groans echoing through the stillness of the surrounding woods. The once bustling park now stood as a ghostly reminder of its former glory, its once bright colors faded to shades of gray by years of neglect and decay. Rebecca stared in awe at the crumbling rides and overgrown paths, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. She had always been fascinated by the stories of the park's mysterious closure, the whispered rumors of tragedy and loss that had shrouded its history in darkness. As she stepped through the gates, a chill ran down her spine, sending a shiver through her body. The air was thick with the musty scent of decay, and the sound of rustling leaves seemed to follow her every step. But Rebecca wasn't afraid. She was drawn to the park like a moth to a flame, her curiosity overpowering any sense of fear. The first ride she came to was an old wooden roller coaster, its tracks warped and twisted from years of disuse. As she climbed aboard the decrepit cars, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that unseen eyes were following her every move. As the ride lurched into motion, Rebecca felt a sense of unease wash over her. The creaking of the wooden track and the howling wind seemed to form a haunting symphony, a soundtrack to the park's dark past. And then, as the coaster reached its peak, a flicker of movement caught Rebecca's eye. There, in the shadowed corners of the ride, stood a figure. It was indistinct, like a ghostly apparition, but Rebecca could make out the shape of a young girl, her eyes empty and hollow. The girl beckoned to Rebecca, her pale hand outstretched, and without thinking, Rebecca reached out to take it. But as their hands touched, a searing pain shot through Rebecca's body, a pain that was not physical but spiritual. Memories flooded her mind, memories that were not her own. She saw the park in its heyday, the laughter of children and the thrill of the rides. But beneath the surface, she saw something darker, something twisted and malevolent. The girl's eyes blazed with a fiery intensity, and Rebecca knew in that moment that she was no ordinary spirit. She was a vengeful force, a specter of tragedy and despair, and she was determined to make Rebecca pay for the sins of the past. As the ride came to a stop, Rebecca stumbled out of the car, her head spinning with a mix of fear and confusion. The figure of the girl was gone, but her presence lingered in the air, a cold chill that seeped into Rebecca's bones. Determined to uncover the truth behind the park's dark history, Rebecca ventured deeper into its depths, each step bringing her closer to the heart of darkness. She came upon an old carousel, its once vibrant horses now frozen in a macabre dance of death. And there, at the center of the carousel, stood a figure cloaked in shadow. As Rebecca approached, the figure raised its head, and she saw for the first time the face of the park's owner, a man whose name had been forgotten by time. His eyes were hollow, his skin ashen and pale, and as he spoke, his voice was a whisper that echoed through the empty spaces of the park. "You've come to uncover the truth, haven't you, my dear?" he said, his words dripping with bitterness and regret. "But be warned, for the truth will not set you free. It will only bind you tighter to this cursed place." Rebecca felt a shiver run down her spine as the man recounted the events that had led to the park's closure. He spoke of a tragedy that had claimed the lives of countless children, a tragedy that had been covered up by greed and corruption. And as he spoke, Rebecca saw flashes of images in her mind, images of children screaming in terror, of dark shadows looming over them like vultures. But as the man finished his tale, Rebecca saw something else in his eyes, something that sparked a glimmer of hope within her. She saw the flicker of regret, the hint of redemption, and she knew that there was still a chance to set things right. Armed with newfound determination, Rebecca delved deeper into the park's mysteries, following a trail of clues that led her to the heart of the abandoned funhouse. As she stepped through its crumbling entrance, she was met with a sight that chilled her to the bone. The walls of the funhouse were lined with mirrors, each one reflecting a twisted version of reality. And in the center of the room stood a figure that seemed to flicker in and out of existence like a ghost in the fog. Rebecca approached the figure with caution, her heart pounding in her chest. As she drew closer, she saw that it was the girl from the roller coaster, her eyes burning with an otherworldly light. "You seek the truth, do you not?" the girl whispered, her voice a haunting echo. "Then look into the mirrors and see the horrors that lie within." Rebecca hesitated for a moment, then summoned the courage to gaze into the nearest mirror. And what she saw there chilled her to the core. She saw the faces of the children who had perished in the park, their eyes wide with fear and pain. She saw the darkness that had consumed them, the malevolent force that had fed on their innocence like a hungry beast. And in that moment, she knew the truth of the park's dark past. But as she turned away from the mirror, Rebecca saw something else reflected in its depths. She saw a glimmer of light, a spark of hope that refused to be extinguished. And with that spark came a realization that she alone held the power to break the park's curse and set its tormented spirits free. With a renewed sense of purpose, Rebecca confronted the girl, her eyes blazing with determination. "I will not let you rule this place any longer," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "I will break the chains of darkness and bring light back to this forsaken land." And with those words, a surge of energy coursed through Rebecca's body, a power that she had never known she possessed. The girl faltered, her form wavering like a candle in the wind, and then, with a scream that echoed through the empty corridors of the funhouse, she vanished into the darkness. As the park fell silent once more, a sense of peace washed over Rebecca, a peace that she knew was hard-won but well-deserved. The sun began to set on the horizon, casting long shadows over the abandoned rides and pathways. But for the first time in years, the park felt alive with the promise of a new beginning. And as Rebecca stepped through the rusted gates, leaving behind the horrors of the past, she knew that the whispers of the forgotten would haunt her no more. The abandoned theme park stood silent and still, its secrets laid bare to the fading light of day, its ghosts finally put to rest by the courage of one brave soul.